Hello, today I thought I'd look at some Stone Roses, and this is actually the very first time I've looked at a Stone Roses track on this channel. Not quite sure why it's taken me this long to get round to it, but there you go. Thank you for your patience. The song I've chosen is She Bangs the Drums, and before we go any further, let's take a listen to what we're going to be learning today. So there we are. I went for this song just because for me it's a very interesting one guitar wise. Actually almost went for something else but didn't in the end. But if you enjoy this lesson, do let me know and maybe I can look at some more Stone Roses stuff in the future. So what is there to say about John Squire? Obviously he's a fabulous guitarist and I think right up there with the greats of British guitar, and whilst he's not afraid to take a guitar solo, I think what I like best about his playing is his rhythm guitar, and he's just got this ability to come up with these great memorable melodic rhythm guitar parts which perfectly support the song, and I think a really good example of that is this particular song. Now, one of the issues you have when you're trying to figure out John Squire stuff, particularly stuff off the first album, is it's actually very difficult to hear exactly what's going on. It's a fabulous album, a great production by John Leckie, but it's very psychedelic, it's kind of multi-layered, obviously loads and loads of guitar overdubs, and unless you've got access to the original multi-track recordings, which sadly I don't have, then it's next to impossible to hear exactly what's going on. So there's a little bit of guesswork on my part here. I've listened very closely to the original recording, listened to, I think there's an alternate mix, there's a demo recording as well, been through some live footage, so I hope I've got pretty close to the essence of what John Squire is doing here, but to get it exactly I think is near impossible. Anyway, let's get to it. Let me show you what I think is going on here. So in terms of the basic chords, this song is actually a very simple one. It's a 3-chord tune. It's really just A, D and E, and in that sense if you just wanted to strum your way through it, it would actually make a very good beginner's song. But what makes it interesting is what John Squire is doing with those 3 chords, the way he's embellishing and colouring that basic harmony. So let's get started by looking at the verse part, and this is based on just 2 chords. We've got E and we've got D, and I'm playing these 5th string root bar chord shapes. So I'm up here at the 7th fret here, we've got an E, and then we've got a B and another E, and then if you want to, a G sharp on the B string. You can either play the full major chord, or often John Squire is just playing the power chord part of that bar chord. So that's the E chord, move that 2 frets lower and you've got a D major chord or just a D5 power chord. And the actual part he's playing in the verse goes something like this. We've got so you can see that we're strumming that power chord or that bar chord, and then we're just picking out some of the individual notes in that chord. We're arpeggiating, so we're going, and I think the strings that he's picking out are the A string, then G, D, A, D, and then A again. So strum and then pick. Then we've got this little slidey move. So I suppose these are kind of major pentatonic derived notes perhaps, but we're sliding up on the D string from fret 9 to 11, playing 9 on the G, and then we're sliding back on the D string again. So it's a nice little melodic embellishment. So if I put that together with the first part, and then we're going down 2 frets to the D, just giving that a strum, and then we've got some more of this of melodic embellishment. So this time we're hammering on from 7 to 9 on the A string, and you can either hammer that or it might be a slide from 7 to 9, doesn't particularly matter, but I'm doing a hammer on here, playing 7 on the D, and then 9, 7, and then sliding back down from 9 to 7 on the A. So strumming the D chord, then strumming the D chord one more time, then just picking out some individual notes, so A, G and D, and then we've got a slight variation. So it's the same 7 to 9 hammer on the A string, then I'm playing 7 on the D string, but maybe it's a double stop there, and I can play 7 on the G as well, then 7 to 9 hammer on the D string, and then we've got C sharp, B, A, so it's 6 on the G, 9 to 7 on the D. So all of that D chord part we've got. And then we're back up to the E again, and the whole thing just repeats. Down to D, and this time we're just letting the D hang for a couple of bars, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, strumming the D again, and then so it's just the second riff on the D chord that time round. So that's the basic verse part. Then the whole thing repeats one more time, and then we're just leading into the chorus. And just before we hit the chorus, there's this really nice little lick which leads us into the chorus that goes like this. So this is mainly based on double stops. We've got a D and an F sharp. This is the 7th fret on the G and the B strings. Then we're going down to the 6th fret on the G and 5 on the B. And then we're hammering back down to that first shape, and then we've got double stop, 5th fret on the top 2 strings, and then some single notes on the G string. So this is just 7 to 6 and then 4 to 6. So all of that is which takes us into the chorus. Now the chorus is both simple and complicated at the same time, and this is actually the part of the song that I debated for quite a while as to how exactly I was going to play it. On one level it's really simple, it's just 2 chords essentially, so it's A going to D, so A to D 3 times, and then up to E. And it's possible that there are 1 or 2 guitar layers that are just playing some very simple chords like that, but the part that I decided to go for is something like this. nice kind of arpeggiated part, and you can just about pick this out if you listen very, very closely. I think this particular part is more prominent towards the end of the track, and on certain live recordings you can hear John Squire doing something a little bit like this, although on other live performances I've seen he gets a little bit lazy and he's essentially just playing an A and a D chord down at this end of the neck. So lots of ways you could approach this, but I do like this nice arpeggiated part. So what I'm doing here is this. This is like an A sus4. I've got 7 on the D and the G, and I've got 5 on the B and the high E, and I'm just arpeggiating that. So D, G, D, B, E. Then I've got this little hammer-on move. So it's 5th fret on the top 2 strings, and hammering down on the B string at the 7th fret, back to the 5th fret, and then 7 on the G, 5 on the B, back to 7 on the G. So that's really outlining an A sus4 sound, and then really going to a D sus2 sound, if you like. So I'm just playing that 3 times. Then we're playing an E chord, and you can just strum that and let it hang. I'm playing this little riff, which I think you can just about hear that one of the guitar layers on the studio recording is doing something like that. So I'm playing the low E string, and then I'm playing on the D string. I've got E, F sharp, then I've got a G sharp over on the G string, and it's A, G sharp, F sharp, E, and I'm just playing that open low E string in between some of those notes. So that's my main chorus part. I think that works quite nicely. If you wanted to, you could mix that in with some open chord stuff. So you could play an A down here, or an A sus4. You could play a D sus2 like this. On some live footage I've seen, it looks like John Squire is kind of playing some kind of long A chord shape. So barring an A chord here and then stretching up to the 5th fret on the B and the high E string. And then going down to a D or a D sus2. So you can experiment with that. On to the solo section, and this kicks off with a quite simple single note line which really just doubles the bass line, and that goes like this. So this is quite simple stuff. We're starting off on the A string. We've just got 2 open A's, and then we've got B, A, C sharp, A twice, and then we've got D at the 5th fret, C sharp, open A, and then B, C sharp, B, A. Maybe adding a little bit of palm muting on that. Then we're just doing exactly the same thing but over on the low E string. And that whole part is repeated. Then we're into what I suppose is a guitar solo. We've got this. So here we've got an open E major chord, and then a little major pentatonic riff. So we've got the low E string, and I'm sliding from 3 to 4 on the low E string. It could be a hammer on there. And then we're over onto the A string. We've got 2, 4 on the A, and then 2 on the D, 4 on the A, and 2 on the D. Playing that open E chord again, then you can just about hear some open high strings, and then I'm playing the D note at the 3rd fret on the B string, which gives you a kind of E7 sound. And then we're repeating that single note riff. Then we're into this lovely double stop part. I think this is probably my favourite part of the song, the bit that goes like this. So this is mainly played with double stops on the B and the G strings. We're starting off with this shape here. It's the 7th fret on the G and the B. Then we're going down to 6 and 5 on the G and the B. Then I'm hammering back to that first shape. And fingering wise, I'm liking to play that first shape with my 3rd and 4th fingers. I can get a solid hammer on there. You could just bar across with your 3rd finger. Then we got 5th fret on the top 2 strings, and then back to the 7th fret shape, and then the 6th and the 5th fret shape, and then back to the 7th fret. So maybe giving that a little bit of vibrato. Then we repeat all of that. Then coming up to the 9th fret on the B and the G string. So and I'm just playing this with a down up movement in my picking hand. There's lots of syncopation and off beats in there. There's a few scratches as well, so and then we've got this. So I'm just hammering down at the 11th fret and the 10th fret, and then pulling off back to the 9th fret shape, adding in this high E note, and then we've got this. So this is 10 to 9 pull off on the B string, and then 11 to 9 on the G. Then we're going round again. And this just ends slightly differently, so we're going to go, it's the same as before, and then we're just going straight up, so 9th fret, 11 and 10, and then moving that 2 frets higher. And then we're back into the chorus again, and the chorus just repeats 2 or 3 times to end the song. Let's talk John Squire gear then, and today I'm just using the kind of gear that I think sounds best for this song, also trying to use the kind of thing that John Squire was known for using. And as far as exactly what he used on that original recording, who knows? I mean, he could have used a number of different guitars, amps, effects. I don't think there's any definite information on that, but there is quite a lot of information online about what he used live, and there are some wonderful John Squire nerds who've gone into all kinds of detail about exactly what pedals he used at various different points in his career. So today the guitar I'm using is my Fender Strat, and John Squire obviously used a Strat from time to time. I've also seen him play this song on a Les Paul, on a Gretsch, I think, as well. He's probably one of those players who sounds like himself no matter what guitar he plays, but I think this song sounds quite Strat-like to me, so that's what I've opted for. Amp-wise, I'm going through my Fender Deluxe. I'm using a few pedals today as well, and here I'm following the advice of the online John Squire nerds. And I don't mean that at all disparagingly. I am, of course, a fellow John Squire nerd, but these nerds are particularly nerdy and they know all about the various pedals he used at different stages of his career. So I've gone with their advice. Seems John Squire was a big Tube Screamer user, so I've dug out my old Tube Screamer, using that for my main overdrive sound. Got a bit of chorus in there as well. That's from my Boss CE2. And using a bit of delay from my Belle Epoque Deluxe. I think that's by Catlin Bread. Now for the loud bits, I'm stomping on a fuzz face. I think John Squire was a fuzz face fan, and I'm running that at the same time as the Tube Screamer. I'm kind of stacking those together. I've got the fuzz face first running into the Tube Screamer. And the particular fuzz face that I'm using is one of the Jimi Hendrix series fuzz faces. And I think this is one of the fuzz faces with a silicon transistor or diode or whatever it is. Probably shouldn't talk technical like that because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it's silicon as opposed to the germanium one, and exactly what difference that makes in terms of tone I don't know exactly, but this one sounds good. And there we go. I hope you enjoy learning to play this song. As usual, the music and tab is going to be up on my Patreon page. Also put together a little backing track, which you can also find there. And sadly, didn't have time to do the full John Leckie multi-layered psychedelic treatment on the backing track. It's quite a basic bass guitar and drums. But if you do fancy playing along, then do check out the Patreon page. Thanks very much for watching. Cheerio.